It's very silly to assume that this is just a matter of dollars and cents and debt to GDP ratios. When money drains, power drains remorselessly. The week before my book came out, everyone was very excited about whether we would reach a so-called deal on the debt ceiling before the clock chimed midnight on August the 2nd. Remember all the big fuss about this? August the 2nd is looming, it's coming, it's approaching. August the 2nd at midnight. If we didn't reach a deal on the debt ceiling, our glittering coach would turn back into a pumpkin. And Air Force One would turn back into a large zucchini with 2 stick-on wings of President Obama's beloved arugula, flapping limply as it tried to get airborne. I may be overextending the metaphor a little here. This is classic Beltway nonsense. The debt ceiling deadline was entirely irrelevant. The problem is not the ceiling, it's the debt. And Cinderella negotiating to extend the midnight deadline to maintain the illusion to 2 a.m. does not alter the fact that it is an illusion. Just to put that debt ceiling debate in perspective, there was a dispute between John Boehner and the Congressional Budget Office about the so-called scoring of his plan. Speaker Boehner said his plan called for $7 billion of cuts for the 2012 budget. The CBO said the plan only reduced the 2012 budget by $1 billion. Which of these numbers is correct? Who cares? The $7 billion that John Boehner calls, quote, a real enforceable cut for financial year 2012 represents what the government of the United States currently borrows every 37 hours. In other words, between now and the time and the end of the week, we will have borrowed back every dime of those painstakingly negotiated savings. If the CBO's scoring is correct, that it reduces the 2012 deficit by just $1 billion, then the cut represents what the United States borrows every 5 hours and 20 minutes. In other words, in less time than it takes to drive from my pad upstate to St. Anselm's and back, in the time it takes to watch Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Parts 1 and 2 with a bathroom break in between, all the savings of this painstakingly negotiated plan will have been borrowed back. 7 billion or 1 billion? Who cares who's right? That's a choice between dead or deader. A month of shuttling back and forth between the Capitol and the White House for a, quote, real enforceable cut of $1 to $7 billion? Let me give you some numbers that are rather more relevant. Within a decade, the United States will be spending more of the federal budget on its interest payments than on its military. That's to say, more on debt service than on the armed services. And according to the CBO's long-term budget outlook, by 2020, the government will be paying between 15% and 20% of its revenues in debt interest, and defense spending will be down between 14% and 16%. So America, just to get this in perspective, America is responsible for about 43% of the world's military expenditures. Within a decade, America will be spending more on debt interest. And this is not paying off the principal. This is like when you get your MasterCard at the end of the month, you can't pay off any of the debt. All you can do is just stay current with the monthly interest charge. Our monthly interest charge will be more than the combined military expenditures of China, Britain, France, Russia, Japan, Germany, Saudi Arabia, India, Italy, South Korea, Brazil, Canada, Australia, Spain, Turkey, and Israel. You add up all their military budgets, that's our interest charge on the debt. By 2015, by the way, and that's if they stay at their current historic low, if they were to return to what they've averaged in the last 20 years, about 5.7%, America will be spending more than the planet's entire military budget on debt interest. By about 2015, we will be covering the entire cost of the People's Liberation Army of China. That's what you guys have to pay for. Small businesses in Bedford, suburban homeowners in Nashua will be paying for the entire budget of the Chinese military. No precedent on that anywhere in history. The Roman Empire got pretty stupid in its last years, but they didn't say to Roman taxpayers that as a matter of policy you're going to have to pick up the bill not just for the Roman military but the Visigoth military as well. And if they had, it wouldn't have been so bad because the Visigoth military's budget was mostly just pelts. So they'd still have got a better deal than we do. Permanence is the illusion of every age. We are not just outsourcing the economy, we are outsourcing power. And as American power fades, it's outsourcing the future to a very dangerous planet. This is bleak, and I understand it's a depressing scenario. I don't want to give away the ending of my book, but when we do the musical version that Drew seemed to be encouraging, we will focus group the finale in out-of-town previews, and we'll change it to a happy ending in which Michelle Bachmann sees the error of her ways and settles down with Joe Biden to run an all-singing, all-dancing Department of Community Organizer grant applications in Chicago. It'll warm your heart. But until we close the deal with Disney on that particular project, let me stay being grim. It starts with the money, but it never stops there.